everything you see on a screen is a lie, because a screen is a two-dimensional surface, but it's trying to convince you that it isn't. It's trying to convince you that it is reality. For example, you are not watching Andre Pontes in his room talking. You are watching an after image of Andre Pontes in his room talking. The real Andre Pontes is either playing video games, bike riding, eating granola, or is dead, depending on your time in the future. However, the image in front of you is affecting you on an emotional level, like it is Andre Pontes talking to you on a screen. We react to our screens, whether it be a TV screen or a poster board or what have you, as if it is the thing that it's representing. But the map is not the territory. It's representing an image, and as long as we know that it's representing an image, then it is fine. Then it is a useful tool to us, and a tool that we can use to create and communicate. However, when we aren't aware that this is happening, when we forget that the map is not the territory, and we ascribe to the image what we would ascribe to reality, then comes the problem. The reason for this has to do with a phrase called psychological projection. So psychological projection is when we project our subconscious or unconscious fears and desires and essentially emotions and thoughts onto reality. This has to do with the Jungian shadow and a lot of what Jung talked about. The idea being that we all have unseemly behaviors, unseemly emotions, unseemly thoughts, things we don't like about ourselves or are ashamed of or want to suppress and not admit to ourselves that they're a part of us, and we suppress them. Thus, they get relegated to the subconscious, more specifically the shadow. One of the things, that being one of the purviews of the shadow. What we need to understand from a psychological perspective, from a behavioral perspective, is that we, the person, I am this, I'm the one in charge, I'm the one thinking, having these thoughts and these feelings, I'm the one moving through space-time. This is not the person who's running the show, but we think it is. We believe it to be, we feel it to be even, but this is not the case. We believe ourselves to be the captain of the ship, when really we are the ship, and our subconscious is the captain. So that no matter what goal you have in life, no matter what you set yourself out to be or achieve or become, it is ultimately an illusion. As long as you are not delving into your subconscious, as long as you do not have a connection to your subconscious, a through line, then it is all ever be but an illusion. This is where the fate, this is what gives rise to the idea of hell is paved with good intentions. People believe that they're doing something good, believe that they know what they're doing, and they go off and set out to achieve it, and thus it has catastrophic consequences that they did not foresee because they weren't paying attention. They weren't dealing with reality in and of itself. So this has to do with the idea that we believe we are self-aware. Humans believe that by our virtue of having thoughts and being able to think about our thoughts and recognizing ourselves in the mirror, that makes us self-aware. But it doesn't. And it has to do with the question of, well, what self are we talking about? Well, myself, obviously, right? Well, that's the fallacy. We believe we understand what the self of self-awareness is, and we don't. Thus, the idea of illusion, thus the idea of lila, and, the Buddhists talk about this, but as well as many other traditions. Illusion of separation, for example, as I spoke in my last video. And what is happening here is, if we are correct and we understand the world around us and we understand the self and who we are and are able to manipulate and perceive reality, then the results will follow that we would be successful in our manipulations of reality. But this is not what we find. What we find is things fall apart and fail, and we don't understand why, so we keep trying it. Now, through this process of trial and error, we may come across resistance and a moment of self-evaluation and self-reflection and rethinking, well, what's going on here? I thought I was doing this, and I thought it would be successful, but it's not, which means either I'm missing something or I don't even know what I'm doing to begin with, and something somewhere needs to be rethought. This either leads to introspecting yourself or the opposite, double down and buckling down, like, no, I'm right and they're wrong and everybody else has to change according to me, and so on and so forth. And neither of those solutions is Well, I mean, the first, obviously, is the more ideal. But the goal here is to realize, to come to the realization through introspection. It's like, oh, the reason I'm failing, the reason there's a disconnect, the reason I'm not being able to affect and manipulate the world around me. Manipulate's not exactly the most accurate word. Interact with and perceive and achieve and accomplish. That's the idea, right? Manipulate the world around me, and it's not being successful. And the reason that it's not being successful is not because reality itself, the environment of the world around me, is incorrect or doesn't know what's going on. It's I don't know. I'm incorrect and don't know what's going on. I do not know what the self is, what my self is. This is a very terrifying experience for a human, let alone any other living thing, because the underlying belief is that if I do not know myself, yes, I'm crazy in a sense, but as far as, society's measurements and standards, but also it means if I do not know myself, I do not know my environment, and therefore I cannot protect myself from my environment because I don't know what's happening. So, understandably, a knee-jerk reaction of fear and not wanting to avoid this experience. Also, fear is a very painful emotion physically, so we're going to automatically defer from that. However, fear is one of the most useful tools, because fear, when faced and when accepted without judgment or shame, when we sit with ourselves and our souls and the dark parts of ourselves, when we sit with our fear and we ask ourselves, why are you here? And we go, oh, I'm here to protect you. Oh, but why are you here to protect me from? Oh, I'm here to protect you from that. Not what you thought, not all these other things. I'm here to protect you from that, the thing you don't want to look at. And okay, well, why am I afraid of that? Then the crucial question here. Why am I afraid of this? Most cases, and not necessarily all, because I'm probably not thinking of some, but most cases is because of trauma, because I had a previous experience in my life framework, or past life, where that hurt me. And it hurt me so bad that I could not move past it. And I'm afraid it's going to happen again. And the emotion of it and the experience of it, again, is so painful that we want to suppress it to the subconscious. We don't want to feel it because, touching a hot stove, we automatically move away from it. Not to say leave your hand on the hot stove, that's dangerous and stupid, but in an emotional sense, sometimes we need to leave our hand on the hot stove and explore what's going on. Again, in a safe setting. But yes, there's a lot of wisdom in fear, because wisdom is not there to destroy you or to punish you or torture you. Apologies. Fear is not there to torture you and destroy you. Fear exists to teach you. Fear is the greatest teacher. Because ultimately, what is all fear? Well, all fear, regardless of who you are, what culture, where you come from, or what kind of thing you are, all fear, what kind of organism, is the fear of death, the fear of not existing. This is innate, biological, and spiritual level. All fear, if you pull that through line, leads to this: our mortality and our wanting to not be aware of it. But the thing is, you need to be aware of your mortality, because it is. There's no denying it, there's no arguing with it, there's nothing you can do to change this. You will die one day. And you need to accept this fact if you are to move forward in life. And ultimately, as I personally believe, if you do not accept your inevitable mortality, your inevitable death, then you fail to exist to begin with, because you're always living in a fever dream, constantly trying to outrun your nightmares. It's only when we perceive and understand our nightmares do we understand what the cause is and what actually is going on, and therefore something to do about it. Death is not the enemy. Death is natural. Death is more natural than the next breath out of your mouth. Death is always there and always will be there. It is because of death that life can exist to begin with. It is because we face our fears do we understand why it is we're afraid of it, and therefore what is most important to us and what it is we truly strive to achieve. Mementos mori, the remembrance of death, and therefore the contemplation of it and the introspection of it, really is about understanding not just the life and the world around you, but how we feel about the life and the world around us, what it is we truly desire most. And for humans, what we desire is actually pretty simple. It's connection, is love, and wanting to cherish both for ourselves and others, and wanting to cherish the experience that we have and to be able to go after it. But if we do not have that initial experience of the confrontation of death, and the subsequent understanding of fear's place in our emotional repertoire, that is never available to us. It is through fire and flame that we are cleansed and can achieve our rebirth. The rebirth actually being, humans are born twice in their life. Physically, first of all, and then psychologically. Psychologically being, we're kind of in an incubator, psychologically, until this happens, till the rite of passage happens. And we don't actually perceive life and are able to deal with it. And that explains the world that we live in, us modern humans. We've forgotten the rite of passage. We've forgotten our ritual for whatever reason. And we confront ourselves with a dying planet and collapsing sociological system of many sorts, and coming face to face with these problems and asking, why is this happening? Why can't we do something? What is going on here? Why, no matter what we try, we keep messing up? And the answer to that is quite simple. It has nothing to do with the systems and strategies that we've applied to the problem, and it has all to do with the emotion of it, the heart of the matter. It's not that we're not able to solve these problems, we don't know how to solve these problems. We do. The problem is we don't want to, because wanting to requires facing a lot of dark stuff that we don't want to accept about ourselves. If you have ever wondered what it is you could do for this world, what it is could do to not just change your life and those around you, but the world at large, and make it a better place for everyone, including yourself, there is only one answer to this that is always true and always will be true, and that is face your darkness, not with shame or judgment or reprimand or expectation, but just to sit with it, to feel what you are feeling, to feel what you have felt. And if you do, and until then you can't move forward, but if you do, then you can. And you can move forward with purpose and with authenticity. Because you know, not everything, no, and you never will, it's impossible, but you will know what feels right to you. So how do screens have anything to do with this? Well, as modern humans, we sit in front of screens for a large amount of time. I'm doing it right now. And the point I'm trying to get across is that when you sit in front of a screen, no matter what it is, it doesn't matter if it's the news trying to tell itself that it's reality, no matter what that screen is, it is a lie. It is not true, because it is a two-dimensional object that's pretending and trying to convince you that it isn't. It's trying to convince you that this is real and that what you're feeling is real. But here's the thing, you can't interact with what's ever on the screen. No matter how much they try to do that, even like in a video game, it's ultimately always one-sided, the screen to you, the screen telling you what reality is. But a screen can't tell you what reality is. It can be a tool if you go into it knowing that this is a tool and that this isn't real. This is a map representing something, and it's not the actual thing. Cinnabon beep. Or pipe. I don't know. Cinnabon beep. Beep it. And as long as you have that understanding, then it can be useful. But if you don't, and many people don't, because in order to have this understanding, we're not talking about an intellectual process like, oh, this is screen, and no, we're talking about the emotional subconscious effect a screen has on you. And if you're not in tune with your subconscious to a very intimate and developed degree, as in knowing fear and your death, then you don't know your subconscious, and your subconscious can be manipulated and programmed by forces outside of you. This is another very useful reason why we should explore our darkness and sit in acceptance with it. And this is ultimately the point. What I was trying to get to is that a screen is manipulating your emotions on a level you're not aware of. It doesn't matter what screen it is. And this is why every screen you see is lying to you. This is why me, the after image of Andre Pontus, is lying to you, because I'm not Andre Pontus. I'm just a bunch of electrons shooting at your eye, right? Again, going into it knowing that, then it's not that much of a problem, because then you become masterful with the tool and it becomes a craft. But until then, you need to ask yourself, who is making the screen that's in front of me? Who is the one that decided put that in front of me? You don't know what's over here. You don't know. You can't see all my dirty laundry sitting on my bed. Just kidding, it's clean. You don't know what's outside of this frame. When we go into film school, they teach us, one very important thing, that a filmmaker is deciding what's inside of the box. But we as a viewer, and the whole point of watching a film, as well as other media, but mostly film and art, is to be passive, to be placid, to remove ourselves from our prefrontal cortex, constantly questioning. And this is a good thing in certain regards and extents. It's exhausting constantly being a self. And to remove ourselves, and so that we can surrender to this image, to this experience, to this art piece. And that can have very transformational effects if done correctly and with the right intentions. Filmmaking and movies have changed my life for the better, and it is because that I've had deeply emotional spiritual experiences in an audience that I decided to dedicate my life to it. But that can also go the other way very easily, and it can also be detrimental and destructive, as we're seeing with just the news in any country. I mean, the whole point of the news is that it's telling you facts and reality. It's convincing you I am the truth and only I know the truth, and anybody else who disagrees with me is lying to you or is just stupid. And that's just not true. The fact that the news doesn't really mean anything. Oh, things that are new is a good idea. It's not truthful, it's just things that are new. And then, for some reason, the modern world, things that I think are new. Ugh. Not to say don't trust the news and throw all away, but yes, be skeptical. Yes, question. Yes, and more importantly, not even question, before even questioning the screen in front of you, question the nature of the self. Question your thoughts and experiences you're having. Not to an overthinking anxiety level, because that happens too, and I have that and it sucks. But yes, there is always a part of my mind, there is always a part of my mind, 10% of my brain, or thought process, or whatever, what have you, that is permanently reserved. It is unalterable and unmovable, and no matter what happens to me in my life, or who I become, it will always be there. And this space is reserved for one simple question. But what if I'm wrong? Doesn't matter the thought, doesn't matter the experience, there's always that thought. What if I'm wrong? Now, because through trial and error and through growing and experiencing, I know when to use this and when not to. But when I started off having severe mental health issues and not knowing what to do about it, that became very, very useful. Oh, I believe this, and then this is happening, and that means this, and that person feels this way, and then that always little question coming out, oh, yeah, but buddy, what if you're wrong? Now, the reverse of that can also be extremely detrimental, where you get caught in a constant feedback situation of just awfulness and other awfulness, and you don't know what reality is anymore. And that's upsetting. That's when you reach out to a friend. But as with any practice, it is a matter of balance. So always remember, screens are lies. Sometimes they're beautiful lies. Sometimes they're pretty lies, but always a lie. And 2, have a little curiosity. Curiosity is the opposite of fear. And have a little curiosity. What am I if I am not the self? Thank you for watching.